5 years at the world scene. It is a program started by the US federal institution, and it's present in over 160 countries all over the world, remaining one of the most prestigious scholarship programs. And you, as the Americans, are really privileged being able to choose, when you're planning to go on the scholarship, to which of one of the 160 or even more countries you would like to apply to. So we're here today to encourage you to consider one of our 3 countries or other countries in Central Europe, and to convince you to choose this way. Also, would like to tell you a few sentences about the goal, the objectives of the Fulbright program. We are, of course, an academic exchange program dedicated to students, junior researchers, advanced researchers, professionals. But our overarching goal is actually building mutual understanding and being a vehicle for cross-cultural understanding. And this is what we are really looking for in the applicants for all our programs. Saying that, I would like to pass the floor to Angela and her presentation about the offer for the American students and scholars in Bulgaria. Angela?
Great. Thank you so much, Justina and Alexandra, for organizing this meeting. And thank you to everyone for taking time out of your summer to join us. Just let me share my screen real quick. Can everybody see? Okay, I'll start my timer here. So, so why Bulgaria and why Eastern Europe? Okay, wait, I can't change my slides. There we go. So Fulbright Bulgaria, we're about a mid-sized program. We have about 40 Americans coming. We have a very large ETA program, 30 ETAs per year, 5 student researchers and 5 scholars. We were founded in 1993, so we have about 30 years of experience. I myself was a Fulbrighter in Bulgaria, a student researcher, and Fulbright Hayes, so I've seen the program from many angles, and hopefully I can answer your questions. What are the advantages of a Central or Southern European country? For Bulgaria, at least, we do have a pretty extensive orientation, a week-long orientation in the fall, which includes language lessons, because we know that Bulgarian is not a commonly taught language in the US, so we really try to give resources. We have a summer online course before the year begins, and then intensive language lessons at our orientation. We also do orientations in the spring for scholars and students coming in the spring. We have a very large cohort that are all over the country, so Americans have a really great network of colleagues throughout the country. We have a large and active network of Bulgarian Fulbright alumni, and we really work to connect our American grantees with our Bulgarian alumni, especially scholars and students who are working in the same academic fields, so you can take advantage of that knowledge. We try to do cultural educational events. Of course, COVID has made that more challenging, but we've done a lot of online programming to kind of keep the cohort in communication, and hopefully this year will be in person entirely. We also have a robust network of partner organizations, NGOs, government institutions that we really try to hook up our grantees with so that they're really getting the most out of their time in country. And of course, I think all of us have had a lot of experience with supporting grantees' mental and physical health. So that's something that we take very seriously and is something we're always training our staff to be on the cutting edge of. And we really encourage extracurricular activities, and we really try and help give our grantees opportunities to become involved with the community. Then I'll give some examples of that later. So for those of you who might have faculty members interested in Fulbright, please encourage them to think about Bulgaria or the region. We're open to any field, but people with English, language, literature, always an easy fit, shall we say, political science, history, the arts, but I mean, really open to any fields. And we encourage candidates to reach out to us. I know some of the big commissions, they don't have the staffing capacity to take hundreds of questions, but the Bulgarian Commission really loves for scholar candidates and student researcher candidates to reach out to us to ask about potential host institutions, which programs might be most appropriate. We can put you in touch with alumni who might be in your same field. So really, if you have candidates from your university who are interested in Bulgaria, do not hesitate to reach out to us. We're very happy to talk to candidates and kind of give them the lay of the land. And I think that's the same for my colleagues here. Another thing to keep in mind is that while most of our scholar candidates are PhD holders, we do also encourage professionals, artists, journalists, lawyers, independent scholars to apply as well. And while teaching is often a focus, we really encourage professional projects. A lot of times NGOs are more engaged than, say, a university. And so if people have a mixed, you can have more than one host institution. So encourage your candidates to think about, okay, they have a teaching component, but then they also might have a community engagement component for scholars and students as well. So that's something that they can certainly talk about, talk to us about if they have questions. We do have basic benefits, but also dependent allowances for American scholars who are coming with their families. So something to keep in mind. As you can see, we've had host institutions all over the country. So wherever they're interested in going, we can probably put them in touch with the appropriate Bulgarian counterparts. The student research program, we have a small, but I would say robust program. We have about 5 or 6 students per year. We have 3 core grants that are Bulgaria only, but then we have joint grants with Romania and Greece. So they spend 1 semester in Bulgaria and then 1 semester in Romania or Greece. The order can be depending on what their project calls for. This is great for people studying the European Union. So Bulgaria and Romania joined at the same time. So it's a really interesting opportunity for comparative, say, political science or history studies. Greece, art, archaeology, that's always an interesting combination. We also have a specific archaeology and history award. So if you have students that have graduated in archaeology and art history, we know that it's getting more difficult to go to the Middle East, and Bulgaria, after Italy and Greece, is the European country with the most, I think, archaeological artifacts having been found. And we have, I mean, everything from the Neolithic to Thracian, Greek, Roman, Byzantine, a really incredible cultural history. So you have students that are interested in archaeology history, please check out our special award. They work with an NGO and actually do a field school in archaeology. We often get a question, do we prefer people with, in MA or PhD programs? I would say yes, it's always, an advantage if a student is enrolled in an MA or PhD program, but it really comes down to the quality of the proposal. And if you have a great BA, somebody who's just finishing their BA or their BS, and has a really strong proposal, they shouldn't hesitate to apply. And they're, again, welcome to reach out to us, to talk to our staff about, where the best support and host connections might be for them. And of course, the ETA program, which is probably our largest and I would say maybe most visible program. We have 30 plus awards. We have a wonderful sponsor called the America for Bulgaria Foundation that supports 30 ETAs in country, and then we have a couple corporate sponsorships. So we have, I think we're going to have almost 35 ETAs in country this year. All of our ETAs teach in high schools for the most part. These are public secondary schools, mostly language schools, but a few math and science schools. So 8th through 12th grade is high school in Bulgaria. We're trying this year experimenting with about a half dozen university, and it might be in the future that we'll have some university positions, but the core of our ETA program is really high school. So if you have candidates who are interested, who have youth leadership experience, this would be a great match for them. It's always helpful if someone has English language teaching, and that doesn't necessarily have to be formal. They could have been a tutor, maybe have some coaching experience, some youth leadership experience. It's just good to have a little bit of experience working with young people. That's always a plus. It's a pretty intense program. Sophia will tell us a little more about that, but it's not Fulbright light. You're teaching 14 to 20 hours a week. So it's pretty much a full-time teaching job. So for people that are really interested in maybe going into education, this is a really great opportunity to get your classroom management skills up to par. But we also really encourage our ETAs to do extracurricular activities. We don't require individual research projects like some, because the language skills, most people don't come to Bulgaria with Bulgarian language skills that would allow them to do individual research. So we really encourage our ETAs to do extracurriculars, and that could be sports, it could be cooking, it could be, a psychology class. Like, we really encourage them to use their own interest to engage the community, students, and/or a larger community level. We have a really great network that's called BEST. It's the Bulgarian English Language Speech and Debate Clubs. So please send us your debaters, your theater majors, your Model UN enthusiasts, because the Bulgarian students really love it. Most of our schools have a team. So it's a really great way for the ETA to kind of get into the community right away and help the kids with their performances. If they're not interested in that, it's not the end of the world. There's lots of opportunities to do other kinds of volunteering, but if you have people that have this experience and this interest, they might want to check out the Bulgarian program. The host schools, as I mentioned, are predominantly foreign language high schools. Benefits. I think in this day and age, we've heard a lot of concerns about the rising cost of living in Europe, especially with the housing crunch due to the refugee crisis. I would like to point out that Bulgarian ETAs receive free housing. We require the schools to house our ETAs because it's very difficult to rent an apartment not knowing Bulgarian in a small town. And we also want our schools to have some skin in the game. So, I mean, we inspect all the housing to make sure it's safe and hygienic, but you do receive free housing, and as well as a monthly stipend, which, you know, Bulgaria is generally quite cheap. Food, cost of living is quite cheap. So we like to think that our ETAs live quite well. We don't want to have a situation where somebody would not be able to take part in our program because of financial concerns. So we really work with our sponsors to make sure we're giving a stipend at the level that, you know, anybody from any background who is a great candidate should be able to take part in this program. The other good thing is you only work 4 days a week because we want our ETAs to travel and to visit each other, get to know Bulgaria, get to know the region. As you can see our map here, this is more or less the network of schools we work with. So we really have students everywhere across the country. And we really encourage, that's why we give 3-day weekends so that people who are kind of up in the more remote areas have an opportunity as well to travel and meet their peers and see a little bit of the countryside. And yeah, this is just some photos of the various kinds of extracurriculars. We had an ETA working with Syrian refugees during the Syrian refugee crisis. We had a guy who started the second lacrosse team, which was great because before the other one didn't have anyone to play. So now there's 2. Working at an orphanage, doing a soccer clinic with orphan kids. And then this is the best speech and debate performance. So just an idea of all the kinds of things that we encourage our ETAs to do. So that was it from me. I'll turn it over to Sophia, who is an ETA, and she was in Bulgaria last year, and she'll be coming back again this fall. So she can give you the lowdown on her personal experience.
Thank you so much, Angela. Thank you to the Fulbright commissions from Poland, Hungary, and Bulgaria, and for all of you for being here. It is really awesome to be able to share part of my experience and why I have decided to come back for a second year. My name is Sophia Thompson, and I just completed my first year of Fulbright teaching as an ETA in Gabrovo, which is a beautiful town in the center of Bulgaria in the Balkan Mountains. I certainly lucked out with, I think, the most beautiful town in Bulgaria, but I'm a little bit partial. Yes, like I said, I loved it so much. I will be returning to Bulgaria in the fall for a second year of teaching and learning and mentorship. And I'm going to share a few reasons why this was such an easy decision for me to make. I originally chose to apply to Fulbright Bulgaria for 2 primary reasons. The first is immersion to learning traditional Bulgarian music and dance, which I had a background in prior to coming to Bulgaria. Expanding on that was a little bit difficult this past year because of COVID. A lot of the classes were canceled or minimized very greatly. But my students took that as an opportunity to teach me during class. So if we would have 5 minutes at the end of class when we had finished a lesson, they would teach me a new horo dance. Or they would share with me their favorite Bulgarian music artists. And then I could go and practice that on my own, and it wasn't creating extra exposure that we hadn't already been partial to. So that was a really awesome way to continue to learn that. And then the second main reason why I chose to apply to Bulgaria is, as Angela mentioned, the emphasis on community engagement outside of the classroom. And this really was the key decision factor for me. As someone with teaching experience prior to coming to Bulgaria, I knew from experience that working with students outside of the classroom to build that trust was one of the most important keys to having them actually succeed in a learning environment, because they trusted you to have their best interests in mind, not just as a teacher, but as their whole person. And so the fact that Fulbright Bulgaria not only gave us the time and opportunity to do this, but encouraged it and made that a requirement as part of the program was really important to me as a candidate. And really for both of these goals, the year exceeded my expectations despite all of the challenges. I was able to build mentoring relationships with students and help them succeed in receiving scholarships, going to national speech and debate tournaments, conquering language certificate exams and university applications, which just filled me with great gratitude that I had the opportunity to help them with that. I also built friendships with my students and mentoring relationships that will certainly last for many, many, many years. I am still working with students online because I believe in them and they have given me their trust. So we've been working together over the summer to prepare 11th graders going into 12th grade for university applications or other scholarships, or just to build their resume in different ways. And we are working together as a team to reach their personal and professional goals. And this certainly would not be possible without the Bulgarian Commission and the time and energy that they have really provided us and encouraged us to take part in this. And last but not least, the very best part of this is that it's not a unique experience. Many of my dear friends and fellow ETAs from this past year share the exact same sentiment, as we've been given that time and encouraged to lead extracurricular and community-based activities, whether it is working with BEST, the speech and debate tournaments that have been established in Bulgaria, starting our own drama clubs, music clubs, sports teams, things like that. We really get to work on our passions and our interests as individuals and then bring them to students and meet them where they're at. So finding something that everyone is interested in can help you as a student teacher learn more and help the students engage with you in ways that they are actually interested in. So with that, I will leave it to the next cohort, but I am very excited to return for next year. And thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you so much, Sophia. I hope you will be also available to take any questions that might be relevant here. So now I would like to ask my colleague from Hungary, Karoli, to take the floor and explain the program in this beautiful country.
Okay, thank you. I'm kind of out of practice here, so you'll have to forgive me for being kind of slow. All right, so I guess you can see the slides, right? But for some reason, it doesn't go out into the full screen. All right, so Hungary, unlike Bulgaria, has a very small English teaching assistant program. We only have 3 ETAs. And these ETAs are based at university level. One of them works with Roma students, and Eric will talk a bit about his experience with the Roma community. But we're celebrating our 30th anniversary in this calendar year. That's why I have the first slide here. But some of the features, just like my colleagues from the other 2 countries, we really look forward to receiving questions from applicants from the US who are looking for a host, who are looking for the appropriate city, who are looking for professional and academic contacts that they may not have, who are interested perhaps in teaching. This is about, I'm talking about faculty or students who want to enroll in a university program or are interested in some kind of non-traditional hosting situation, such as working at an art gallery or a print shop or someplace like that. I'll turn on my little stopwatch here. And so because of this, we encourage you to contact our alumni, but also to give us, to give us a holler here at the office, because we do this all the time. And so we give a lot of personal attention to the applicant, even during the application process. There are about 30 semifinalists that IIE forwards to us in the student program. I'm not going to talk too much about the faculty program, but these 30 semifinalists are received. I would say a third of them are ETAs. So we have about 10 ETA applicants for those 2 or 3 ETA slots. So it's very competitive. And the rest are student researchers who more or less are working on independent projects. And, we start out the academic year by taking them on an excursion to Visegrad. It's on top of the mountain there. This is the cohort that arrived in the September of 22. They're all very happy because many of them are COVID refugees who have to wait for a year or 2 years to get here. Student program characteristics. Like I said, those students who are not English teaching assistants, who are not teaching English at North American Studies departments, or in our advising center or at American Corners, or most of them are doing research that's either related to a degree, or they're looking at topics that could be related to a future dissertation, or they're actually working on a dissertation in a very specific topic, and they had to come to Hungary to do the field work. As Angela mentioned, of course, extracurricular and volunteer activities are all welcome, and this includes, the full gamut of sports, singing in a choir, working in a print shop, passing on some kind of skill, anything you could do to cooking, anything you could do to make friends with people in your neighborhood, in your apartment building, who may not be, as confident in their English skills as others are. Types of projects that roughly 10 students and 2 to 3 ETAs do every year. Well, one of them is based at the advising center we have in our office, where they're giving advice to Hungarian students and other English-speaking students who walk into the office and want to study in the US. So this is basically an Education USA type of function. And so one of the ETAs most likely will have some kind of advising experience, working at a study abroad office or a fellowship office or something like that. It's not required, but it does help. And at the same time, they also have a secondary engagement at one of these English or North American Studies departments in Budapest, where they're teaching specialized academic English or English conversation or CV preparation or something like that. Hopefully, another ETA would be based outside of Budapest at many of the rural universities that all have North American Studies or English language studies departments, and they're doing the traditional ETA type of teaching of advanced English to their peers. Now, when I say to their peers, our English teaching assistants tend to be a few years out of their undergraduate experience. In other words, they're 23, 24 years old. And this simply helps because it's easier for them to deal with graduate students who might be their age or slightly younger than they are. So they have, more street cred if they're slightly older. If they're 19 or 20 or 21 years old, they may not go over that well in an academic department full of, PhD students who want to improve their English skills. And then, of course, the third ETA will be based at one of the Roma residential colleges in Budapest or elsewhere. These are advanced studies institutes set up all over Hungary, basically located in university towns where students who identify as Roma or others who are interested in studying with Roma students live together, study together, but they're not necessarily enrolled in one department or in one major. They are simply living in a residence hall, and they're given extra training and all kinds of self-confidence building courses and so forth. So our English teaching assistants have done quite a bit of work with these Roma residential colleges and have all engaged in a special project with them. And I'll show you what these special projects consisted of. But the most typical American student in Hungary is doing independent research. And they're not all at universities. They could be in art galleries or print shops or ceramic studios or in a museum, or they could be doing a photography or a film project. So there's a very broad range of projects that we tend to approve. And there's an increasing tendency now to have several of those students enrolled in a formal MA, MSc program at the Liszt Academy of Music or the Kodály Academy, or studying mathematics, or in other MA, MS programs. We offer 9-month grants, and very seldom do we extend them into a second year, but in some exceptional cases, we do offer a second year of support. That's usually shared with the host institution. This is a new tendency. So our American students are very, very diverse, and it's very hard to say what a typical project consists of, but there's always a heavy emphasis on mathematics, on some aspects of culture, including music, as well as lots of independent artistic types of projects. Like this gentleman here, definitely very artistic. His project was, he was here during the 2018 academic year, which was also a election year, and he went around ripping posters off the wall and reassembling them. And he lives and works in Philadelphia at Temple University. He's quite an accomplished artist. Galen Gibson Cornell is his name, and this is a methodology that he developed here. And he was also learning printmaking at a print shop using one of those Gutenberg type printing presses. He never saw one of those, but he was also teaching digital 3D printing to his peers. So that was his outreach project, so to speak. This gentleman is Daniel Sender. He was here as a student and came back as a faculty member a few years later. He is a concertmaster of the University of Virginia Orchestra, but he has done a lot of work in combining folk music, gypsy music, Roma music, and classical music. And he's coming back to give a concert at our 30th anniversary celebration. So he started out as a student and ended up coming back as a faculty member, and will be bringing his own students next year on a study tour. A Roma ETA project, I'd like to mention this. These were done in these residential colleges, and you see each of those little booklets is a different project. The first one, the yellow one, Cook Roma Style. Our ETA was a very good cook, and he decided to learn recipes, and the students had to go home and get grandma's recipe, of course, which was not formalized, was not written down. So they had to reconstruct the recipes, figure out the portions and the proportions and so forth. You had someone working on a Lovari, one of the Roma languages, dictionary, Hungarian, English, and Lovari. And we had someone collecting folk tales that was illustrated by little kids. That's the really bright, colorful one on the bottom left. And then the final one project there is about success stories of people who made it into higher education, who came from the Roma community. And every year we send an ETA to one of these residential halls, and there are quite a few of them, so we kind of make the rounds around the country. University affiliations, this is not a comprehensive list, and I know it's a laundry list, but I think you'll be getting the slides. So you basically have, a lot of, top-heavy big universities in Budapest, including those affiliated with the Catholic Church, Reformed Church, and other well-known ones. And they all have English and North American studies departments. This is important for your faculty who would want to teach political science, American politics, US culture, and things like that. And then, of course, there are the comprehensive universities, all having North American studies in the major cities, and several of them concentrate on agriculture or liberal arts in particular, or environment and agriculture and so forth. Important to note is the bottom bullet point is the American corners, and I know maybe they call them something else in Poland and Bulgaria, but these are US embassy supported cultural outreach centers where the English teaching assistants, as well as our grantees, both faculty members and students, go there to give classes, to meet with kids, to do book nights and movie nights, and just have discussion sessions and so forth. So it's a good place for them to hang out. And I'm looking at my time here. Eric will talk about his experience in a few seconds. I want to show you a few more pictures, and then I'll be done. I mentioned that we have monthly excursions, just like the first Friday of every month is an excursion day when we take all of our grantees, usually about 25 to 30 Americans are in a country at any point in time. We take them on excursions either in Budapest or to the countryside. Some of them are overnight trips. This is a concert at the Academy of Music. This is a statue of, who knows, Steve Jobs. This is one of the first statues of Steve Jobs in the world, and it's in a place called Graphisoft Park, where Microsoft and other firms are located, and they decided to honor him by commissioning a statue, and he's wearing his his little sweater and so forth. You can tell. And then this is something called funk. I'm sure you have versions of this in your countries. And you have to use very fresh apricot jelly, that your grandmother would, but put away, in the summer when the apricots are ripening. So this is an aspect of the cultural exchange that you can't really avoid. And this is, of course, a view of the river. And I'll pass it off to Eric. And I don't know how much time we have, but I guess I talked for about 11 minutes. So Eric, it's all yours.
Thank you, Karoy, and thank you everyone for having me here and for your interest in the Fulbright scholarship or grant. I have to just say, my decision and the way that I came to the Fulbright was one of opportunity. I knew that I wanted to either go to law school or get my PhD, but I didn't know exactly what path would be the best one. And so at the time, it was pretty convenient that Hungary, and I'll just share my screen for these slides here. 1 second. So for Hungary, I'm not quite sure how to share the screen here, but for Hungary, it was more a decision about what was happening at the time. Hungary was going through something that was called the Decade of Roma Inclusion, and I had been working at a law firm in Harlem, trying to figure out what were the reasons for the inequalities, systemic inequalities that were happening around me. I thought that maybe becoming a lawyer and helping the problem out that way would be the best way for me to do that. But I felt like maybe that might make me a cog in the system in a way, maybe getting a PhD and pointing out the systemic issues was the best path. And I just was trying to figure it out. And I knew that I had a topic in mind about what I would do research on if I were to get my PhD, and that would be on the systemic inequality stemming from education. And so part of the Decade of Roma Inclusion's efforts and initiatives was to increase integration of the Roma communities with generalized education systems throughout Eastern Europe. And so I was looking into what were the outcomes of that, and were any lessons learned from the United States post Brown v. Board of Ed when it went through its anti-segregation period. So that was my initial intent in going to Hungary. Things changed, and I'll explain that a little bit if I have time, or maybe in the question and answer section. But most importantly, once I got to Hungary, what I found was something that was very unique. And I hear this from other folks that I talk to who have done Fulbrights in other countries, and that is that the Hungarian Fulbright Commission is super involved in your development. From day one that you arrive there, you're engaged by the commission and its staff. You feel like it's a second family away from home. And they're very much preoccupied with immersing its grantees into its culture, its history, and who they are as a people. They organize monthly meetings where we get an opportunity to get together, which is something you don't really think about. But given that many of the grantees are in different areas of the country or studying very different things, there's not a lot of opportunities to come together. So the Hungarian Commission makes it a point to every month, at least once, to bring the grantees together, to have this experience together with one another. And also, as an outsider coming into a country for the first time, you get to experience history from a different perspective. When I was there, we had the 2008 election. And so I got to see how other people viewed the American election and its outcomes. We got to see strikes and labor movements throughout the country as they happened. This bottom picture here on that column is an airport strike, and other political demonstrations that were happening at the time. If you could move on to the next slide, Caroline. But how did that impact my time in Hungary and what I was looking at? So as Caroline pointed out, I was looking at Roma integration in Hungary through the Decade of Roma Inclusion. I had to adjust my study due to a number of factors, including the fact that the Decade of Roma Inclusion was very new at the time, and so outcomes weren't very readily available for me to look at and study. So I had to look at a specific instance, so a case study of one school called the Dr. Ambedkar School. And my time there allowed me to make connections that I never thought could be made in this particular and unique way. Things like the teachings of the Buddha were connected with Dr. Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar, who was a jurist from India and the author of its, or one of the authors of its constitutions, along with the Brown v. Board of Ed Supreme Court case outcomes, and how that inspired advocates from Hungary in their efforts to integrate the education system for the Roma, and how does that outcome and drive connect to perceptions of the Roma that go back hundreds of years, and then again coming back to the Decade of Roma Inclusion, which is a logo that you see there. All of those ideas and different inspirations were all connected through this research. Next slide, please. And so those connections continued on, and they continue on to this day. So I was a grantee, as I pointed out, in 2008, 2009. And since then, I've been connected to Fulbright staff and alumni here in the United States, or me returning back. 2013, we had people coming from the Fulbright Commission to the United States, and we met up and I gave a presentation. Then 2017, I went to Hungary. As Kari pointed out, they had the 25th anniversary celebration. and I was able to give a talk where the American ambassador was, and I was able to share a stage with her at the time. 2018, this is not connected to the Hungarian Fulbright Commission, but connected to Fulbright alumni as a whole, because as a Fulbright alumni, you get connected to this global community of Fulbright alumni that spans the world and every area of interest that you can think of. And here we have a advocacy day. So this group of alumni and myself went to Capitol Hill to advocate to Congress and the Senate about increasing Fulbright funding. So, and then as late as and as recent as last month, I was at Marymount University giving a presentation to 14 Fulbright scholars that were going to Hungary, or actually teachers that were going to Hungary for 14 days or 4 weeks rather, to look at Hungarian culture and the education system there. And who knows where this will take me, but I will always be very connected to the program and the people who are part of the Hungarian Fulbright Commission, as long as they'll have me. And so I'm happy to answer any questions towards the end, and thank you very much.
Okay, and I'd like to say thank you as well.
Right. Thank you, Carolee. Thank you, Eric. Let's now move to the presentation of the offer in Poland. So I will show my screen and show the presentation. I will do my best to, I'm showing you my mailbox now, very professional. I will try I will try not to repeat what my colleagues already said, because a lot of features are quite similar to all of our countries. We all provide quite a lot of assistance, and we are very open to questions and to supporting also the candidates. So the program in Poland works already for over 60 years. In 2019, we celebrated our 60th anniversary, and as a bilateral commission, we work for over 30 years. We already have over 5,000 alumni from both sides. And right. Sorry, my computer is tricky today. In Poland, there's around 400 academic institutions, universities, applied science and sciences institutions, public and private, and they can all be the potential host for you. There are also research institutes, Polish Academy of Sciences, that has their institutes all over the country, not only in Warsaw, but also other research institutions. Recently, there was a Łukasiewicz network built, which is more working towards engineering, engineering and technical sciences. Yes, we do believe that there's high English language proficiency in the academic circles, which might be slightly disappointing in smaller centers, but usually you wouldn't encounter much problem without knowledge of Polish language. So this is not required in any of other programs, unless your research is strictly related to some documents or other aspects of life in Poland, which requires the language. The grant benefits are also fairly similar to what our colleagues already said in other countries. Here, I would like to add that we are also providing psychological assistance to our grantees. There's a system set in which grantees can connect directly to psychologists and set meetings with them without any intermediary. So there's a certain level of intimacy kept in this, and many people find it helpful being just far away from their home, especially now in this COVID uncertainty times. So our orientation is usually 3 days for the whole group, plus 2 days of methodological training for the ETAs. We also invite all of the grantees to celebrate Thanksgiving together, and that is combined with the first evaluation session and workshops. And then we meet for the mid-year meeting, which is usually outside of Warsaw. This is like a retreat and sightseeing of some part of Poland. And we also invite everybody to the graduation ceremony at the beginning of June. This year we were celebrating at the residence of the US ambassador, who's actually a Fulbrighter. Mr. Brzezinski was here in Poland at the beginning of 1990s, and he's very proud and he's very vocal about that, making great promotion to all of us and being a great friend of the commission and of all of the program. Angela and Karoli already mentioned that we are part of some bigger pan-European events like EU-NATO seminar, Berlin seminar. And I here would like to also add that for a number of years now, our commissions are organizing regional media literacy seminars that are cross-country events when one of the commission invites grantees, especially ETAs, located in other countries. So this is also a great opportunity to meet your peers being located in other countries and exchange with them. Okay. Here are a few pictures from our activities. And going straight to the programs, I would like to start with the US Student Researcher Program. The way our program for the American grantees is composed is quite balanced. We usually invite 10 to 12 US student researchers and also 10 to 12 ETAs and up to 15 scholars. So the chances are kind of balanced. So the ETA, the student researchers are invited for the whole academic year. It can be 9 or 10 months, or in case of more advanced doctoral students, it can be shortened to 6 months. And grantees can be based wherever they find the best fit for them. We don't limit any topics. We receive actually a lot of wonderful artists. But actually, Poland is also a quite popular destination in life sciences and biology, microbiology. Usually, we get researchers either as students or scholars of the Jewish history and heritage, but this is not limited to any of those topics that I mentioned. For example, next year, we will have one student researcher working on human-robot interactions at one of the private universities in Warsaw. So as I said, our English teaching assistant program is kind of medium size. We are planning for the next year 10 grantees and also for 23-24. And our grantees are placed at the university. So this is a clear distinction from, for example, the Bulgarian program. And they also arrive for the full academic year, which is 9 months in case of Poland. They usually teach either practical English, conversational English, or specialized English language if the universities that subscribe to the program request that, and this particular ETAs have skills towards that and academic training towards that particular discipline. One thing that we pay a lot of attention to is teaching experience. It doesn't have to be any formal experience, but we do pay attention that there is teaching experience of some sort that will be helpful when arriving to Poland and facing students that are, well, the age of the grantee usually, or even a little bit older. Usual teaching time is 12 hours, but there are also office hours. And oftentimes our grantees are asked for some proofreading of academic papers or some other documents by the academic staff of the host institutions, which can be demanding, but is also a great way to build new connections within the host institution. So our Fulbright Scholar Program is on one hand directed to teaching, on the other to research, and it is open to all disciplines, but we also have a few dedicated awards like distinguished scholar positions or senior scholar positions when you yourself are interested in arriving or applying to the Scholar Program to Poland, or you know people who would be interested, please encourage them to go to the catalog of awards and check those particular awards. If you're, for example, from American Studies, American Literature fields, those Distinguished Scholar Awards might be very fitting for you. There are also particular awards dedicated to the researchers at the Polish Academy of Sciences here in Warsaw. And for the Fulbright Specialist Program, as most of the commissions, we offer 5 positions, and we don't expect that to change much in the future. Well, I think that my colleagues were also very already elaborated on whom we are looking for. Definitely, we are looking for people who are very outgoing. I won't be going to what my colleagues explained very well about additional programs and cultural activities. We would also encourage that a lot, and this is similar all across the program. I would like to only here add the message about diversity. That is very dear to our program. And even though you may consider Poland as a very homogeneous country, within the Fulbright program, we do encourage that diversity, and we welcome people of all backgrounds. We often get that question if there's any preference for the heritage grantees. Well, actually there is no. There is also no discouragement for heritage grantees, but since we, for most of the programs or projects, don't have the language requirement, we are absolutely open to people of all backgrounds. So if you have any questions, you can either contact my colleague Alexandra or the program coordinators who are mentioned in the catalog and on our website, or myself. You can find our contacts on the website. Now I'd like to give the floor to Madeline, who's our ETA and also returning ETA coming back for the next year.
Thank you so much, Justina. Dzień dobry, everyone, or good day, as you say in English. Thank you so much for having me. As we said, I am a Fulbright ETA. I just finished my grant from the last year, and I'll be staying in Poland 1 more year. I wanted to mention that my background is in neuroscience, so I came from a science background with some teaching experience before coming to the Fulbright program. And I chose Poland not just because I was interested in the culture, but because there was a focus on learning more about STEM fields and teaching in an upper level university. I was actually a reapplicant, so I had applied for Fulbright when I first graduated in 2019 and applied a few years later. And I'm so glad that I did, because it was the best year of my professional career and personal life really so far. And I wanted to quickly share my experience with you all. So what I liked the most about my experience wasn't just my time in the classroom, but the encouragement to be an active member of my community. So I was involved teaching English, medical English, at the Medical University of Łódź in Poland, which is right in the center of Poland. And I was teaching medical students and doctoral students upper level English in the sciences. So a lot of my students were my age, and we had really wonderful conversations about healthcare and ethics and research initiatives and innovations. And I learned as much from them as they learned from me, which was a really unique part of my experience. I didn't just love getting involved in the classroom, though. I love that our Fulbright Commission really pushed us to learn about Poland by being an active community member, and that's exactly what I did. I got involved in a lot of different programs while I was in Łódź. I joined a soccer team, or a football team, as my friends would tell me it's called. I also got really involved in working with the U.S. Embassy and American Corners, which are programs that promote American culture and English fluency. And that was really unique because, as Justina said, the U.S. ambassador was really involved in the Fulbright program this year. And I got to even do a few events with him in my home city of Łódź, which was really cool. A few of the pictures that I have here just kind of to show, besides, being an active community member in my community, I also got to work with programs and schools around Poland. With the commission's support, I was able to start a national writing contest, encouraging people to write about women in STEM, and it was a really unique contest, and it got a lot of attention from universities and high schoolers who wanted to share their experiences and who they idolize in STEM fields, and we were able to give them prizes based on the best essays written in English. We also got, this year, because of the Ukrainian refugee crisis in Poland, a lot of the Fulbrighters got very involved in humanitarian initiatives. So in the middle picture with the car, a lot of us got involved with donating and helping refugees coming into Poland. And the commission was super supportive of us being, again, not just there as Americans, but really integrating part of the community. And as you all saw, Poland did that with open arms, welcoming people. So these are just a few pictures from my experience. I could talk all day about how wonderful the Fulbright program is, but I want to be mindful of the time as well. So if you have any questions for me about my experience, I'd be happy to answer, but thank you so much for all being here today, and we'll pass it on to Alexandra just for, I guess, for questions.